Tonight, two South Mississippians on the scene of Tuesday's fatal train bus crash are opening up about the moments after the collision.
They stepped up to help people trapped and injured on the tour bus. Michelle Masson sat down with them today in a WLOX News exclusive interview.
Like a bad dream or something, but it was real.
Gary Williams lives in a subdivision across the street from the railroad crossing at Main and Esters, where 4 people lost their lives last week. He says he watched in horror as a train pushed the bus filled with tourists down the tracks, then came to a stop. That's when he sprung into action to help the injured and get them off the bus, and had to go through the window because the front door had jammed.
Immediately, we saw that the passengers were stuck in the back, so John Kemp, he had pulled his car up, and we were trying to reach the passengers so we couldn't reach. So before he could climb on top of his car, I had ran and got a chair from my house.
John Kemp also lives in the area near the accident and says as he was driving home from picking up his son, he drove right past it.
And I initially ran out to the bus, tried to get my out of shape self up through the windows. And at that point, I didn't see the people because they were high up. So for some reason, I reacted to go back and get the car. So I went and got the car, drove it onto the grass, parallel to the bus, and then I jumped on the car, jumped through the bus.
From there, Kemp says he saw most of the passengers on the floor of the bus, some critically injured and stuck underneath others.
I noticed that there's a little lady, very small frame, smothered by this heavier gentleman that's unconscious.
Kemp says a short time after he and Williams provided initial relief, firefighters arrived on the scene and stood on his car to quickly reach the injured and bring them to triage.
I think at one point it was 3 or 4 firemen up on it at one point before they climbed in.
Both Williams and Kemp say they're shaken up from the incident, but glad to have helped, and their thoughts remain with the passengers on board. In Biloxi, Michelle Masson, WLOX News Now.
Kemp says he stayed on the bus, helping people trapped on board until the jaws of life were used to free them.
Biloxi city leaders are holding a public hearing on the railroad crossings, and that will happen next Tuesday, March 21st. It will begin after the regular scheduled city council meeting.